I went to the pursuit of truth. So the other day I wrote this down. I don't know if you can see it. It says, there are days that are set that can't be unset. I'm sure it's going to be a poem. And that's what I thought I would talk about on the pursuit of truth today. And it's to do with, death, I guess, as always, as it's been recently. Um, and I was just thinking about how like my death is set, my wife's death, my three children's death, my dad, my mum, my sister, all of our loved ones, family, friends, everyone, it's set. We just don't know when that is, and because of that, we don't think about it. But it just came into my mind thinking about that it's an inevitability. It's something that is definitive. It's definitely going to happen. I'm definitely going to die. Everyone that I love and everyone that's around me is definitely going to die, as the generations before, as we've been dying since time immemorial. And maybe we'll always die. And obviously there's some people that believe that that's part of existence, because if you didn't die, then you wouldn't do the things you did, or it'd be like having Christmas every day, I guess. But I don't know if that's true or not. Well, I guess we'll know in the future if they ever work out how to stop us dying. Imagine if they do that, and then people like me and all those in the past never got that opportunity. They'll be looking back thinking, oh, they used to die? Imagine how scary that was. And yeah, it is scary because, and I don't know, I mean, obviously, I'm these days I'm not that scared about my own death. It's not that I'm not. I'm more scared about other people's deaths. I suppose I should put it that way. I don't want it to end. I don't. It doesn't. It feels like unreal. It feels like it's a lie that in my mind, thinking that no, I'm never going to die because I've never known any other experience other than the existence. Um, and I guess that's because I was born, and before that I was nothing. Or if I was with God, as religious people believe, then I don't have any of that memory, or that memory is not clear to me. I don't know. Of course, that sparks the question of what happens when we die. Do we go back to that kind of matter, that kind of? I mean, in the Bible and the Quran, it talks about like dust, isn't it, and mud. That's the clay that we're made of, and maybe that's because maybe those words, when they were ascribed, we had no idea of atoms and stuff like that, or the fabrics of creation, everything that's around us. And maybe that's what we're actually made of. So I don't know what that would mean for our future. But yeah, it was bugging me, this idea, and that's why I wrote it down, because it came into my head of knowing that there'll be a time when my wife will die, my kids will die, and we don't know which order it's going to be in. None of us know the order. You could worry all the time of the person you love dying, and then you die before them, and then that worry was for nothing. But the problem is you don't know, and we continue on worrying. And I mean, I guess this is because my mum unexpectedly passing away has brought this to my mind, although, as if you've read in my poems, there's always been something there. And I don't really know why that is, but it always has been. And it just made me quite upset when I was thinking about, like, say, Aidan or Alina, them passing away, and me and their mum, Aniki, not being there to comfort them. It's like, because you bring up children, you do all this hard work, and you're their comfort, especially like with Alina, because she's autistic. And then to imagine, and I know it's because I'm imagining them as 7-year-olds as they are now, and obviously I hope that we get to a very long age, and that by if I get to 80 in their 30s or whatever, that they will be, it's just part of it, and it won't be so soul crushing as it would be as if it happened when they were very young. I always pray for that. And but that thought of knowing that if everything goes the way it normally is, that I won't be there when Aidan or Alina take their last breath, or when I didn't realise this cable's been there all this time, sorry. Right, I won't be there to hold their hand, to comfort them, to tell them it's going to be right, to just that thought. It made me cry earlier on when I thought about that kind of concept, that they will have to go through that alone, and we all do. I mean, I'm now living without my mum after 40, it was 48 years, wasn't it? Yeah, 48 years I had with my mum. I was lucky because she had us when we were young. And that's another thing, that I'm not going to have that kind of time with Ayn and Alina, and I might not get to see them get married or have grandchildren. Unless I live to 100, of course. And then that whole concept, like I keep talking about, that they could watch this video back in time and how weird it is. That's the other thing, is like they will watch this, and at this moment I'm speaking and I'm alive and they're 7 years old, but there will be a time in the future when they can watch this back and they will be fully grown up, and how weird that is. And I'm gone. Same as if someone watches this in the future. Like, as I watch, say, a film with Norman Wisdom or Charlie Chaplin or something, and they're gone, and yet you can still experience them as if they were alive, It's funny that about time, really. It is really a weird concept, that everything passes. And then I was thinking about, and that's probably why I talk about On the Pursuit of Truth a lot, about, and maybe that is grounded in this idea of death and the fragility of life that you often see in my poems that are on here, or in Dead City, or whatever I've written, is how we spend that life. And that's the point I always make in The Pursuit of Truth, that the system that we've given ourselves, this way we've shackled ourselves, that people thousands of years came up with, of having us all divided. Intrinsically, we're all one human species. We're all one. We're brothers and sisters of each other. Found ourselves in this place. We don't know why. We don't know, if there's more of us somewhere else. It's just this, and we're so lucky, whether this is God or not, to have found ourselves in a place where we have everything. We have air, we have food, we have all the resources that we need, whether it's mentally with our great mind power and creativity to create things, from the resources that we found to make TVs, to make electricity, gas, water, warmth, houses. We could do all of this. And yet because of those people thousands of years ago that believed in, and that's a strange thing, is that, we are still holding on to those things without knowing. Those people who were, thought about themselves, thought about possession and greed. That's the basis of those people thousands of years ago who created the system that we now live on, and still keep voting in, and still think that, well, this is the only way it could be. Although there has been lots of different systems throughout time, sheriffs and all that kind of stuff, royalty and whatever, democracy and etc. But those people thousands of years ago that cut us all up and decided that this is my bit of land, and probably because they didn't know that there was other people around. This is mine. I put my flag in it, like we want to put a flag on the moon. That kind of mentality. And now I'm going to control these people, and I'm going to make them pay for everything that was originally free. I mean, imagine how stupid we are. And then we like a template, of banks, schools, government systems, trains, resources. The same template is everywhere. That's the only thing we all agree on, that we all have that same template, which we don't really think about. And yet, because of that, The thing is, like, those people would have been, they would have been scared of technology. They would have almost certainly have been, racist, misogynistic, all the things that we don't like about humanity of our past. I mean, maybe there would be a rare exception, but a majority, just because the way, we're all brought up in the time we are. If you look about 50 years ago, how we were and how we are now and how we'll be in the future, we are products, because of the way we're taught, of that time that we're in, within a certain degree. And yet we're following that same system that has divided us all and made our lives unequal. Who wants to live an unequal existence? That's what we've decided. The 1% will be wealthy, and the rest of you will just have to work for that 1%, or for those people that have the will to create up the business, and then you work for them and they sit on their chair while you make money for them. We will waste resources and energy in manufacturing things because we have to compete with each other, because we all want to make the same pot of money. That we've taken the tree, we've made that paper into money and shackled ourselves to the commodity of money, and everything, in our whole existence being about getting money so that we can do the things that we want to do, and most of us can't do that. And then because of that division, that's what and because of like that idea of like, this is my land, this is me, and then there's culture things and there's wars. Look at Ukraine and Russia and Gaza and Israel at this current time, or Afghanistan and Iraq and America and the West in the past, or Vietnam or Second World War, whatever. All this squabbling over bits of land, and basically is actually who controls the people in that land. We all go to fight, not me, I would never do it, but the people go out to fight to actually basically keep who controls them, whether it's the people, you want to stop someone else controlling you, or you want the people that you're within to control you. And I get that from a point of view of if you live in a country where everything's great and you have democracy and freedom and all that kind of stuff. And that's great, all that kind of thing. But the fact is, our system is shackling us and leading. I know I go on about this all the time, but just it comes down to that aspect of life and death, which is what I started off talking about, is that we all live and we all die, of those that survive. And what better use and time we could do with it if we weren't living in the system where majority of the time we're wasting resources and wasting energy on manufacturing replicas of everything to try and outbid another person. Like the hundreds of different manufacturers of TVs, of computers, of phones, of cars, of washing up liquid, of toilet roll, of every single thing. There's competition for each thing to try and get your buck, your dollar, your yen, your pound, your rand, whatever it is, or your euro. Imagine how silly that is. And this was created by people that you wouldn't even associate with now, because they were greedy and possessive. The people that came up with the ideas of colonies, the people that came up with empires and that kind of stuff. That's the basis of where we're living within. That's the basis of the system that we keep, keeping on with. And of course, those in power are never going to give it up, never going to want to, that's why you don't get world leaders or religious leaders or wealthy people who have that power and control, whether it's money or control of people, of minds, of them, their adoration. And why you get the little people with the little voices like me talking about all the time, because they're never going to want to give that up. Why would they want to give that up? Because they're the 1% that get to travel wherever they like without passports, like the royalty. They don't need a passport. Why do you need a passport to travel in a place that, if you believe in God, it was given to man? This is your domain, not only this section and that section, the whole thing. And if you don't believe in God, then why are we shackling ourselves to say that you can only belong to this little bit, and telling you don't think that person is the same as you? Well, look at you. You're exactly the same. You are the same. We all have eyes. We all have minds. We all have hearts. We all have experience. We all breathe. To misquote like Shakespeare, but we're all human. We're all the same. There is no difference. The only difference is what the brush that we painted ourselves with, or the clay, how we've molded ourselves to be slightly different in this way and that way. And difference is great and everything. And I'm not this and that. What I'm dissing is the shackling of our potential, and the unnecessary things that we're doing. This system that and maybe there is not a better system. I don't know. I would hope there is, that we could all live together somehow without the need of money, without the need of poverty and crime. All these things are byproducts of our system, because you need money, and if you don't have money, then that's what leads you down to drugs. That leads you to depression. That leads you to drugs or to alcohol abuse, or to I know it's more complicated than all that, but you know what I'm trying to say. And poverty and wars, because we wouldn't. What are wars? Most wars are about most wars are created by people who don't want to assimilate with everyone else, don't want to be brotherhood or brethren, who want you to see differences, like Nazis or Daleks, as it were. You are impure, so I must get rid of you. That kind of mentality. I'm not saying all, but or about control and keeping that control. But I've forgotten what I was trying to say there. But just how to do with wars and. I don't know. I can't remember what I was trying to say there. Oh my goodness, I'm going crazy. I'm trying to sort of pick it up from that if I can. But what I'm trying to say is that the system that we have is not equal. If you believe in equality, if you believe in fairness, then why live in a place like this that differentiates us, that doesn't see us as the same, that we can all work together. We can all be one. I think that was what I was trying to say about a different system, isn't it? And wanting us to change for that, to find that better way, and to use the resources, use our time better, and then we would stop having wars of possession. Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to say about what most wars are about, as who controls you or possession of land. Well, if we didn't believe in that kind of concept, you wouldn't need to. If you have a passport, you can go anywhere you like, and every place is as good as the other, because there's no reason for that. The only reason is that you have poor countries and rich countries. It's nothing to do with intrinsics. It's nothing to do with resources or control or people or nothing. It's to do with the money system, the debts, the value of your money is not as good as ours, the abuse of people, where there's countries where their economy is kept by the system that's been created probably unfairly, based on gold, although most of it was stolen. But that kind of system to create that, so that all the rich countries can use the labour of the poor countries, and that kind of thing, outsourcing, all that kind of stuff. All of that. That's what you're all voting, what you're all keeping, that equality, that kind of misuse of human endeavours, of our energy, is what we're all keeping on. Why? Because if we didn't have that, we could work together and know that we wouldn't have to have so much wars and crime. I'm sure there would still be, especially over the transition of this change, there'd still be that, because there'd still be people that will want to abuse that resource or power. And that's probably how it started in the first place. I'm sure we weren't like this at the beginning. But it'll be a lot less. There'd be a lot less wars, because, well, it's all of ours. It's all of yours. It's just, this is called this place, this is called that place. And everything is, because we have, like I say, we have the resources and we have the manpower, which is the two things that you really need. The money is what stops it in our system, because if you're in a poor country, you can't afford for a good health service, or you can't afford to build houses and this, that, and the other. Like you hear, even in the rich countries, that, or we can't use this cancer treatment because we can't afford it. So we're letting people die based on this monopoly game of life that we're playing with ourselves unnecessarily, because we have the resources, we have the mind power. We could create every country could look as good as whatever the best country in the world is for infrastructure, for medical healthcare, for housing, for everyone has a house, everyone has medical healthcare. We don't work to patent things and to compete against each other. We work to, during say COVID times, but without the money, to work out how do we find a cure for cancer, HIV, for malaria, for whatever. How do we, all these things could be done. And what's stopping us? Well, is us, because we're keeping to this system. So when you next see the famines, the wars, when it's not, say, man-made disasters, non-man-made disasters, wars, epidemics, people dying early, people dying of diseases, we're all holding on to the problem that's allowing those things to take place. Think about that. Please just think about that. Take care, God bless, and peace.